Good morning, peeps of the DFS world. This is your buddy Choppadong coming at you once again with another NHL slate breakdown. We have a 4-game slate on the docket tonight. We're going to break this thing up and maybe get into a little bit of lineup building just to show you where the value is tonight. We have a little bit out there. This is a free video to all of the people of the DFS world. I appreciate the follow. I appreciate likes, subscriptions, all of the video views we've been getting. We've been pumping this thing out on Twitter a little bit. It isn't designed to be the best breakdown and with the most content and information, but it is designed to be the fastest. So we've got 4 games, shouldn't have any trouble getting this thing in under 15 minutes. You can go out to your car on a break, take a smoke, listen to the video, boom, you're in, you're done. You got your lineups all set and ready to roll for tonight. I am Choppadong. You can follow me on Twitter at Choppadong. You can also find me in the DFS Army at dfsarmy.com, where I am a coach and contributor among many sports. Hockey just happens to be where I'm heading things this winter. We're getting ready for baseball. We're getting fired up for NASCAR, PGA, all the sports. If you're interested in becoming a VIP, there's a link in the bottom in the description of the video. Follow that link. Takes you right to the VIP section of the DFS Army. Check out our free content. Get into our Slack chats. Start talking with some of the people. We've helped a ton of people already this year. We're helping more every single day. And if you follow me on Twitter, you'll see that frequently I post our winners, and we have them almost every single day. The community is growing. Don't get your lineups from somebody else. Just click buttons and rest your fate in the hands of some guy you don't know, can't track, and has no track record. Jump into us with certified, credible coaches inside the DFS Army. So anyway, let's dive in. This is an all-value team that you've been taking a look at, I'm sure, while you're waiting for me to get rolling. Let's jump over to today's slate, and we'll drag that guy over here so I don't get out of order. We're going to start up at the top with the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Philadelphia Flyers. The Pittsburgh Penguins are the -130 favorite. The line hasn't moved that much. We've got a 5.5 over-under total on the game. In terms of shots on goal, Pittsburgh is the 5th most active team right now. They're kind of headed back up in the north direction where they slumped off a little bit. They're kind of coming back. They are back to their old ways of not giving a crap about defense either, because they allow the 2nd most shots on goal among all teams over the last 4 weeks. In terms of scoring points, Pittsburgh is the 3rd highest scoring offense right now. That's back up where they should be in a top 3 category as opposed to where they were last week, which is kind of middle of the road. So they've had a couple of good games under their belt recently, and they're giving up some points to opponents as well, so that bodes well for the Philadelphia Flyers. This game might go back and forth a little bit. Philadelphia's not afraid to shoot the puck. They rank 7th in the last 4 weeks. They do suppress shots a little bit, or at least keep those things funneled to the outside. It shouldn't affect Pittsburgh too much, to be honest with you. And in terms of giving up points or scoring points on their own, the Flyers are pretty middle of the road. If you want to go down to the goalie, Matt Murray, he has won 5 of his last 6, so he's on a little bit of a roll. He does tend to allow goals. And when we talk value, we'll get into more of that. When we see that Pittsburgh is slumping, I get off of the Penguins skaters in cash games because they get a little bit overpriced. A few of these guys are bringing value back again, so we'll talk about them in a little bit. Flyers, sure, take 1 or 2. This game could go back and forth, could score a few goals in either direction. So you're definitely going to want a little bit of exposure in that area. Pardon me while I take another sip of coffee. Started yawning a little bit there. Move over to Boston and Calgary. This game's a little bit of a coin flip. I will say that this line over here on the Calgary side is coming up in their favor a little bit. Calgary has won 10 in a row. You can't get much hotter than that. And goalie Brian Elliott has won 9 out of his last 10. He's got 2 shutouts in there. So, again, you really can't. It's hard to go against the Flames right now, but Boston brings their own heat. Boston's 7-3 in their last 10, and they've won 3 in a row. And they've got a pretty powerful offense. This is a game that's really, really interesting to me, because when it comes to shots on goal and stuff, neither team is all that active. Where for most of the season, Boston was ranked number 1. They maybe have gotten a little more selective, or maybe have slumped off a little bit. I don't dig deep enough into the numbers to know. But what I can tell you is that Calgary and Boston both score a lot of points, at least lately. Past week or two, they've been fantasy havens for your teams if you've been on these guys. And they're no different right now. They're both ranked top 10. In terms of fantasy points allowed, as all good teams do, when they're playing really, really well, they don't allow a lot of points to be scored against them. You're looking at the 29th and the 30th ranked teams in terms of fantasy points allowed. So that's at the very, very bottom, which is bad for offenses. So we've got two good offenses rolling against two teams that are playing really, really well defensively right now. I don't know how that's really going to shake out, but it sure as hell is interesting for daily fantasy. If they do what they've been doing lately, there is value on both sides of this game too. You slide down here to Detroit and the Avalanche, and you've got Detroit carrying the minus 150 favorite, although this number's coming down. Vegas is not really liking Detroit as much. That line opened at a minus 200, so that is a significant line movement to talk about. The over-under is a 5. If I looked, I might be able to tell you whether or not that line opened at a 5.5 or if it opened at a 5. But the bottom line is, I think it more has to do with Mrazek sitting and Howard being announced as the goalie than anything. But again, it's not a big vote of confidence coming out of Vegas for this. The line did not open at a 5.5. It stayed at a 5. That's not usually a game we want to target for fantasy purposes, but there are a couple of guys in here, Nyquist, Zetterberg, Tatar, they're doing okay. Nielsen's been hot lately. These are some guys you can pick on. I don't know that I'd take anybody on the Colorado side. They're 3-7 in their last 10 games. They've lost back-to-back games. And to be quite honest with you, Picard is prone to giving up the big game, which doesn't bode well for them getting the win. It does bode well for a possibility of Detroit putting up some points tonight. Howard's been fairly solid, to be quite honest with you. Looking through his game logs, he doesn't give up a ton of big games, but you know, he is the backup for a reason. So I'm largely off this game. I may dip in there once or twice. If you followed me, you know that Zetterberg's one of my favorite cash plays, and I won't be running Picard against him, so I don't have any kind of a conflict of interest there. St. Louis and Anaheim to wrap up the night. St. Louis is on a hot streak. They've won 5 in a row. These guys are kind of hell-bent on a mission, I think, to prove they're a playoff-worthy team. Are they a cup contender? No. The problem is they run into a buzzsaw in Anaheim at home. Anaheim's home record is 22-8-3 this year. They do not lose in their own barn. We do draw their backup tonight in Bernier instead of Gibson, which is not a bad thing. He's won 3 in a row of his last 10. He's given up less than 3. He's given up less than 3 goals in his last 10. But so has Jake Allen. St. Louis has been really, really good defensively lately. They've won their last 4, or I guess they've won 5 in a row, but of the last 4, Jake Allen has won 4 in a row is what I should be saying here. Of the last 10 games that he started, Jake Allen has won 4 in a row. He's allowed less than 3 goals in his last 10 games. Now, we don't know if he's getting the start yet. You're going to need to wait. That's a good price on him, by the way, but you're going to need to wait for some news because Carter Hutton might get the start tonight, being that St. Louis is on the front end of a road back-to-back. They go to San Jose tomorrow night. We'll see how they play it with their goalies. There's a little bit in here to be looking at, but there's really not a ton. It's kind of hard. St. Louis isn't a big offensive team. I know they busted out a little bit recently, but I don't really trust them, to be honest with you. I don't know who of these guys that I would really be after. On the Anaheim side of things, you know, Eves isn't so bad. Cogliano was in there for a little while. Fowler on defense was in there for a little while. But I'd have to double check their numbers. If we want to dip into talking some players, one thing I like to do is I like to go here to the Roto-Grinders research tools, the skater stats, dig into the skater stats, sort out by 4 weeks, sort out by salary, and then I start digging through these numbers. I like to start at the bottom and work my way up. Say start down here on page 4 and start looking for teams salary-wise on DraftKings. I'm looking for about a 2/3 ratio. So anyone getting me about 2 points on the average, I will look into. Oulet, I'll look into. Biska, Stone, McDonald. These are guys I'll look into, and I want to look into their game logs and see. I didn't get into the studs. I kind of stuck, with the super punts. But if you want to, because you need some of those on any given day. But I want to look into their game logs and see how they've been performing recently. If you want to look here at some of these names that we picked out, let's go down to the cheapest one here. There's Engelin, however you'd pronounce his name. When you get to cheap defensemen, I'm looking for shots on goal and block shots. I want this number over a 30. Gives me about a 1.5 floor just on activity alone on DraftKings. If he provides any points at that point, then it's a bonus. But so we're sitting at about 31, which is about the 1.5. I need 2. I need 2/3 of my $1,000 spent. So I need a 2 if he's a $3,000 player. If I go in here and look at 2, he's done it the last 4 games. last 5 games, 6, 7 out of 10 times, and he's really only got 1-0 in there. So he's a pretty solid cash play if I'm looking for some deep value. So I'll drop him in there, and then I'll come down to somebody else. Who was the next one that I found cheap-wise? Scott Wilson out of Pittsburgh, third liner. Has been playing a little bit better of late. Not really shooting, not really blocking shots, but as a winger, that's not really his job. He's averaging about 2.5 points over his last 10 games, which is about right for the ratio that I'm looking for here. Kick into his game log, and there's one bad game, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of his last 10 games. He's crapped on me a little bit. He's a little bit risky for a cash play, but he's cheap. And if I'm looking for some value, it gives me cheap exposure to Pittsburgh. It isn't the best exposure to Pittsburgh. You're looking at about 10 minutes a game. It's not like the guy's really playing a lot of ice time. And minutes kind of in hockey are kind of like basketball in that you want guys that are getting a lot of minutes. If we start kind of poking around, you can start finding some of these guys and plugging them in. And then if you want to get up into, say, Pittsburgh, and you want to stack Pittsburgh tonight, you'd come over here to the starting lineups page. You might take a little look. You go to leftwinglock.com. That's another source that you can check. You want to see the ice time these guys are sharing. Let's say I wanted to run Gensel and Sheary because they're both running pretty well lately. Well, I'm going to plug in Sheary, so I'm going to have to pull somebody out, right? Let's pull out Wilson so we don't get too overexposed. And let's punch in Gensel too. He's another winger. So if I take out, let's see, take out Mr. Ritchie here, going up against St. Louis, drop in Gensel. Now I'm still left with about 10,000 per player. I haven't put a goalie in there yet. Let's just throw the top goalie in there for funsies so that we can start working back. If I need to save on goalie, I can. But when I'm kind of looking at a slate for the first time, look, I got 11.6 left over for, a couple of players here. So if I want to grab, of course I like Malkin, right? Let's take out Nielsen. Let's roll Zetterberg. I've still got 2,100 left over. I'm starting to upgrade some of these guys. Ferland I kind of like. Enel, Vatanen, Konerci. Let's take out Konensi. However you pronounce these guys' names. They're all freaking foreign. How am I going to get this? And with the utility guy, I've got ultimate flexibility at 6,000. I scroll down. I can grab Backlund. Monahan's not a bad pick on a normal night. Schultz if I want to go 3Ds and really load up on Pittsburgh. I would like some Boston in there, to be quite honest with you. Patrick Eaves isn't so bad if I double click on him. Take a look at his game log, 3.5 points almost out of 5.5 in salary. It's about right on my ratio. So you kind of can't go wrong. Clicking on the game log, seeing how he's performed here lately. Not so great. 3 games in a row are duds. So he's not as hot as he was. Scroll down. Frolik, Jaden Schwartz, Goth Spears, not another bad one. As I butcher these names just time after time after time. You know what you could do? You could just take a Corey Perry and call it good. You could take a Silver. See, this is the thing. You're going to dig into these guys and you're going to look at their game logs. But let's say I did this. Boom, I could be done. I've got, double check for a little bit of correlation. I've got 5 Penguins in there. I'd probably disperse that a little bit. But you're kind of getting the idea of how I'm putting these together. I'm going to reach down in here for a little bit of value, and then I'm going to start upgrading as I go and going higher and higher and higher. If I wanted to look at a Sidney Crosby, for example, at 8,300, what do I need? I need about 5 points, 5.5 points out of him. I'm not getting it. Half games. That's the problem with some of these cash plays. Is he a great tournament play? Yeah, he's an absolutely phenomenal tournament play. Guy can hang a hat trick on you in a matter of seconds. But the fact is, he's not bringing value lately. Well, there it is. 2 games in a row where he's brought value, and there's a third one that didn't kill you. So maybe Sidney Crosby's back on the radar for cash. This is why you have to stay on top of this stuff. But if you scroll back and you look, you're dealing with 4s, 4.5s, 2.5, 1, 4, 2.5 and 1. That's going to crush you in cash if you spent $8,000 on that player. But, he's getting his consistency back. It looks like some of the bad games are falling off. Some of the good games are starting to come in again. So maybe Crosby's a place to go tonight. I might put him back on my radar. The point is, this is how you build safe lineups. If you need more conversation, you need more information, you log into dfsarmy.com, become a VIP member, and of course, join up, sign up, start chatting with us here in our VIP chat. You can see somebody wasn't happy last night, am I right? Anyway, this is your buddy Chapadon coming at you again with a quick slate breakdown. We're wrapping it up. We're going to hit the ice tonight. You'll be finding me on the Zamboni, guys. See you later.